It's a beautiful start to the weekend. And how about we do yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question? If you want to be part of the Transformer Slag podcast Patreon, help support the podcast. Let us know we're doing a half-decent job here in the Transformer world, keeping you updated on the news, updated on the lore, updated on the sales, updated on all the crazy stuff going on. Come along to patreon.com/protoman or check the pin comment or description below. And let us know that we're not wasting your time and that you like what we do. So we got a Patreon listener question here from Cringe McCringle, and it's a special request because today is Cringe McCringle's birthday. March 18th. I'll post his social security number and his home address. No, I'm just joking. But happy birthday, Cringe McCringle. And he has a special Patreon listener question that he wants to ask on his birthday and get a little shout out, so I promised him that. And he wants to know, hey, Proto Man, I have a listener question for you. I recently got one of my personal holy grails in Transformers, a 2007 movie Wonder Festival exclusive G1 colored RC. He's referring to the 2007 movie RC motorcycle from that was the deluxe class. That then was done in the G1 RC colors, like the white and pink. He goes on to say, only 1,000 of them exist, and I assume it goes for big money, yet I only paid $50 for it. In all years of collecting, what were some of the best deals you've ever gotten on figures? Thanks for everything you do for all us robot nerds. Well, thank you, Cringe McCringle, and happy birthday again. You know what? When I was thinking about that one, and you think it would be something that would be an easy answer for me, but the problem is a lot of the really good stuff that I would call deals today were bought at a time when they weren't really the focus of value. Because I look at like my G1 Japan collection, like, you know, Master Force and Victory stuff and some Zone and Battle Stars. People weren't paying attention to that stuff. When I bought my very first G1 Star Saber for like $150, which, you know, mint and box complete, everything, people were spending like $600 to $800 trying to get a G1 Prowl at the, like, you know, this is 2001, 2000 on eBay. Like the focus was elsewhere. And I mean, again, that focus again went back to that 84, 85, 86 guys around the time of the Michael Bay movies, because new people came into the fandom and now they wanted those classic toys, those first prints, if you will, those key issues. And, but there is a few. I mean, when I look back, like anyone who went to BotCons back in the day and the later TF cons now, you go by Azusa's table. I mean, there's always going to be something that will boggle your mind. But again, it's a regional thing, because to him, that figure's only worth $40, but to us on eBay, that figure's $400, because in his region, it's not that rare, but in our region, it's pretty difficult to get, and the guys on eBay are asking way too much or something. But I remember like one time Azusa busted out like a sealed case of Battlestar G1 Japan Sky Garys that were like from a Japanese warehouse find. He was charging like $90 a piece for these case fresh, you know, 30-year-old Japanese toys. And needless to say, it didn't survive that weekend. And then he'd have like, you know, 6 Night for Master Force for like, geez, I want to say like $40 complete. Like those were all these amazing deals and stuff that I got through him throughout the years. At the time when, I mean, today that the value of this is going to not matter. Again, it's all about timing. But like Ravage X9, $20, 100% complete with the box. And I remember picking that up, and I'm telling you, like, this is the one thing I sympathize with people who go to conventions. If you're not a dealer at TFCon or BotCon, most of the time, some of the best deals are already gone from the other dealers buying amongst each other, because they're already in a room with everyone already being a Transformer expert and a buyer-seller of that hobby. And that dealer room is just the dealers amongst themselves buying and selling for a good 3 hours before it opens up to the public. And sometimes some of the most incredible deals are long gone before even that first person steps in from the public. And that's why I always tell people, like, you want, like, you know, people could pay all they want for the for like early entry to the con or whatever, but the real deal is get a dealer table. Get an artist alley table or a dealer table, and let me tell you, you're gonna get in before everyone else. And I know it sounds like a lot, but I mean, I've seen people spend crazy money to get early access to the dealer room through the charity auction and stuff. And I would say to myself, man, if they just got an artist alley table for like $250, they would have saved them a lot more money. Even though it goes to charity, it's true. But one story that I was reminded of that I figured, I don't know if I've ever told it on the podcast, so I figured I'd tell it here. That was probably some of my best deals, and it's going to be something that's so, I guess it's not really like a high demand figure or something, but just the percentage of how cheap I got it for is to me is an insane deal. Even though it was already stuff I had and I didn't really need to buy it, but you couldn't argue with the price. I had a next door neighbor that was a good friend of mine for a majority of my childhood. Shout out to Victor. And Victor, around, I want to say 2005, 2006, got a manager job at Toys R Us when those were still a thing in the United States, and they still are here in Canada. And just my luck, he becomes a manager at Toys R Us, and he's a manager at a Toys R Us that's like really far away. And he ended up like schooling me on what really goes down behind the scenes at Toys R Us in terms of hiring practices. You know, when sales for stuff happen, certain toys are put back in the back so they don't like lose out on the profit margin. There's a lot of shady stuff that was going on. But one thing that he told me that was very exclusive to Toys R Us, sometimes Walmart engages in this also, but not so much because of the higher turnover, and I'll get into what I mean in a second. But Toys R Us a lot of times would retire UPC codes. And what I mean by that is you would have a product, and that product would have its UPC code on it. And then after about 5 or 6 years, that UPC code would be retired within their database. And then they just kind of leave it in purgatory until it gets recycled for a new product. And what would happen is when it kind of enters that retired purgatory part of it, the UPC code scans at a penny. Now, how does this matter? Well, he said to me, it's like, if you ever go to a Toys R Us and you see something on the shelf that clearly is a product that's like 4 to 5 years old and it's just been sitting there forever, go and find a scanner and scan it, because chances are it's going to be a penny. And I was like, really? And it doesn't apply so much with Walmart, because Walmart just has, I mean, it's not just toys, it's everything. It's bigger margins there. But it was just absolutely nuts when he told me that. And next thing you know, I'm going out, like during, like, this is when I was like in my early days of mechanic school, and just going out during my breaks to like the Toys R Us that was nearby, because it was one of these like out of nowhere Toys R Us's that kind of had old stock sitting around. And sometimes I would, even stuff I didn't even want, I'd be like, hey, that Marvel Legends figure's from like 4 years ago. And I'd scan it and it'd be a penny. And I was like, oh my God, he's right. And it didn't really apply to Transformers too much until about 2006, where I went into a Toys R Us with a very close friend, and they had Transformer Armada stuff, Wave 1, on the shelves. It was like Wave 1 and Wave 1.52 Armada stuff on the shelves in 2006. Now, keep in mind, like, Armada came out in, 2002, that Wave 2 stuff, maybe mid-2002. And I was like, I got to scan this stuff. And they had a lot of Armada stuff there that was just shelf-warming indefinitely. Laserbeak, the roleplay, whole bunch of different Minicon 3-packs, and 2 Voyager Red Alerts, or whatever they called it back then. I think it was like a MegaCon, or they had the weird price points. And I remember scanning them, and everything was a penny. Everything. So I just loaded my cart. And you're having a crazy day at Toys R Us when you actually use the shopping cart. So I remember getting the shopping cart and putting 3 Laserbeaks, 2 Red Alerts, and a whole bunch of Minicons. A whole bunch. Like, the C action team, the tank kind of team, the street action team, the race car action team. There were so many of them, like just multiples of them. And they were just sitting there, and no one was touching them because no one knew that these things were reading up for a penny. They just kind of sat there forever because, it was 2006 and no one cared about Armada anymore. And I just like loaded the cart like crazy. I remember I took a picture, and I still have my old flip phone because it was my very first cell phone. And I took a photo with my flip phone cell phone just to like document it because I couldn't believe. And I still have that phone. I have to figure out a way how I could transfer all those photos because I have a lot of good classic photos from the early Bacons that are stuck on a flip phone that didn't have a way to transfer it. Anyways, and I remember going to the cash register, and this is a good lesson too. So I go to the cash register, they read it all up, beep, 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 and it came to like 24 cents. And the girl was like, wait, what's going on here? And then she like calls her manager. And I told her, I'm like, look, everything's ringing up a penny. That's how much it costs. She calls her manager, and the manager's like dumbfounded. He's like, what? And he didn't understand. You have some rent a manager that works at Toys R Us. It's just, it's one small part of his life before he moves on to being a manager at Walmart or Target or something. And he's just like, what? And then he starts like counting the product. He starts reading them up again, and it's still coming up a penny each. Then he turns to me, he's like, you're going to have to pay like $5 each for all of these. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It rings up for a penny. And either you give it to me for free because you're admitting that it's ringing up wrong. And how it worked in Canada at the time is if something rings up for less than $10 incorrectly, you get it for free. Like either you give everything for me for free and then you're going to end up 24 cents short on your cash, which I'm pretty sure you're not going to want to have to take a quarter out of your pocket. Or you take the 24 cents I'm going to give you and we're going to have a good day. And he had to do that. And imagine he tried to get it for $5 a piece. Like they try. There's a lot of stuff that's not in the rule book and they just try to cover their own butt and do whatever they can to make themselves money. And that if he would have rung it up at $5 a piece, he would have probably pocketed that money because the cash would have rang a penny per product, and then it would have been over $4.99 each. Anyways, I don't want to get too much in the semantics of it, but the point is he was trying to screw me. But I ended up getting a shit ton of Armada product for absolutely nothing. Like absolutely nothing. And what did I do with it all? I had all of it already. I bought it all full price back in the day. I supported Aaron Archer's legacy back then. So a lot of it, I remember 2 of them I gave away as presents to kids. It was one of the mini sets, the C team. But the rest of it I kind of just brought to cons as trading material or selling material. And because what was my bottom line was a penny, I was able to sell like the mini sets at $5 a piece. And I think I sold Red Alert at $25 because someone really wanted it. And I think unfortunately, the Laserbeak stuck around for quite a bit. No one really wanted those, but the point is that was probably one of my best scores, and not to mention the fact that I turned around and made a lot of money from it too. And they were just sitting there for almost half a decade. It's not like I was scalping. It's not like, oh, you came in and bought all the product. Dude, it was sitting there for like half a year, and no one decided to like scan these UPC codes to make sure this thing was. And if they didn't care then, what do you want me to tell you? No one bothered to scan it and notice that it was a penny. And I kept doing that still to this day. And the only time it's ever really happened again was those tiny turbo changers that they do, those like little like simple transforming ones. The early tiny turbo changer movie ones that they put out. I was at a Toys R Us and it was like, when did these things come out? I want to say like 2018, 2017, maybe even earlier. They had like the Wave 1 ones. And I scanned it, and lo and behold, it was a penny. But this time, what I figured, just to avoid any kind of conflict, I bought some other stuff too. And they didn't notice that it was scanning for a penny. And so they just kind of like, they just beep, 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 beep. And they just go, okay, it comes to 24. And they, this little blind baggy thing is unnoticeable to them. But yeah, like it still happens once in a while, but you have to look for really old product. You have to see it's something like Walmart today because of the margins, like I say, it doesn't happen really. because there's just so much that comes in and out. But if you have something that's like a Target or a Toys R Us, if you're Canadian, that still has stuff that's lingering around long term, it doesn't hurt to take 5 seconds when you're doing your tour of the store to kind of pick it up and just beep it, scan it, see what it goes for. Because sometimes they're always trying to unload on stuff. It's kind of like a modern day version of KB Toys in a lot of ways, where they were like taking their $10 items and selling them for $1 so they could just get it out of there. But I think that's one of my best deals. I know it sounds silly, like, oh, Armada toys, really? But no, it's a funny story, just of like, what it used to go for. Something like that Red Alert was what, like $24.99 back then, or MSRP USA was probably $19 back then. But to get it for a penny Canadian, which 1 penny Canadian, what is that, like a quarter of a penny American? But the point is that that was probably one of them. I mean, there's so many. Like, I'm just turning my head and I'm just like looking at like everything else, and it's like, yeah, maybe I got like some, like, hey, this thing was $100, I got it for $50, but so I saved 50%. Yeah, that's I guess could be seen as but when you're getting Armada toys for literally a copper coin, do they even make them out of copper anymore? Probably not. But when you're getting an Armada toy for like a penny, you can't argue with that. That's probably like the craziest stuff. And again, there was a few tiny turbo changes, but the Armada stuff was the big one, because a lot of it I went to then turn around and get decent money for it, and then I put towards better product. So then you could say like, oh, I paid like 8 cents for all these Armada toys, turned around and sold all of these 8 cents of Armada toys, and then took that $250 that I got for those Armada toys and bought, a Minton Box, Wheeljack G1 or something. And then you could say like, oh, I got a Minton Box G1 Wheeljack for 8 cents. You could say something like that. I mean, but that's kind of convoluted. But that's one example. I'm pretty sure people have much more exciting stories. The sad truth is a lot of Transformer product for the longest time I bought brand new, MSRP right out of the store, up until I'd have to say about Dark of the Moon. That's when my breaking point kind of happened, where it was just like, you know what, there's a better way to go about this. And I had my epiphany during Energon even, where I was kind of going like, a lot of this stuff is cheaper in the secondary market too. But, that's a whole other story for a whole other time, for a whole other Patreon listener question perhaps. But again, happy birthday, Cringe McCringle. Love the name. And thank you again for the Patreon listener question. If you want to be like Cringe McCringle and be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon and help support the podcast, again, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. And like I always say, rock out with the robots in the skies, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Saturday night Transformer Slag live stream.